meaning being able to read for a sustained period of time, reading text, and then be able to, recall what they read for that time frame. And what we don't have time to do, because basically what we wanted you to do is read the passages on the 5th grade from the test, and then think about when you're reading, what's really important here? What is the author really trying to say in the text? And then answer the questions they offer. But that would take like 2 hours. Okay? So we have provided you with the 5th grade test. Now I'll show you what the portal is, the FSA portal that's on a website with the Florida Department of Education, and they have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade practice tests, reading, writing, and math, depending on the grade level. That's also available with the answer keys. Because I will tell you, I think Mrs. Eccles in her meeting, and the administrators that took the test in their meeting. And there are some questions on there when you're reading going, well, there's a couple of good answers that I would choose, and it really makes you think. So then you feel what kids feel, so we want to teach them as they're reading, and keep track of what they're reading, and their strategies that they're learning in their reading. They're marking up the text, they're allowed to write on the text during the test, highlight keywords and so forth. And so what happens is that'll help them when it comes to looking at the questions. What is the overwhelming response I think is the best answer? What is, and how did you say it, what the author?
What's the author's point? What's the author's claim? What does the author really want you to know, his opinion? There's some tricky words on there that we go over with the kids. A lot of times they'll say, what is the author's point? You might see the author's claim, but they're really asking for their opinion. So making sure that the kids understand the academic vocabulary that the test is asking them. And then on this slide, we were saying, like, if you wanted to, you could challenge, I'll take the 3rd grade test, or I'll take the 5th grade test while you take the test and see who gets the better score. You like challenge your child to see who
And on those practices, like what you're seeing there, it may not be always the complexity. Some of what I see could be equate to, but other times it may not be the complexity that they will receive on FSA. However, it is the type of test questions and answer responses they will see, and that's just as important, to know how to respond and what the test is asking them to perform. So that's what's good about being familiar with the practice test. We ask the teachers also to let them know that they should expose the children before FSA to the practice test. It's not mandated that they should be required to, but it's highly and strongly recommended from us.
I know that Ms. Hatcher's class is going to do it the week after spring break, because I was just talking to her, and her class is going to do it after spring break, because 3rd grade test is the next week, the 1st and 2nd. So she's going to give them the practice test, go over it with them, and then get them,
ready. And that's good, they can either do that, and as long as they give them the feedback, so they know if they didn't understand how to do the question, that the teacher's going through it. Or another option is, I say, put it on the Elmo, and take a couple questions a day. You read the text with the class, so they're all thinking together, the teacher's thinking out loud, going over, and you can do the same thing at home if you want, and take the test, and read it together, and go over the questions. Okay, what is the question really asking you here? And you both go back, teach them to go back into the text. Look for where the response is addressing that question. Where in the text can you use to prove your answer? So there's different ways that teachers can expose, or parents. You can do it together, or have them do it by themselves, and then they'll come back together and do it together and see where the breakdown was. Because there'll be some questions they're not too sure about, and that's okay, and that's where the teaching point is, to go over it with them. And there is an answer key on the FSA portal, which we'll show you how to get to. Because it'll say practice test, and then it'll say practice test key.
Okay.
And what it'll be the exact same test, but I'll have it bubbled in, the answer.
Okay.
That'll be useful, because particularly I know when we take the 5th grade, we needed the key. So I'm thinking if the adults need the key, we need to work with our kids on this. So, yeah, so it can be pretty complex. Okay. All right, so then what do the kids need to be able to do to be successful on the test, which we were just talking about that. And then here's an example of a test item that's on that 5th grade test. And here it's talking about what information about Thomas Jefferson is included in both passage 1 and passage 2. So the key thing is, okay, what information is included with Thomas Jefferson, but not just passage 1, but passage 2. So we always teach the kids, all right, passage 1 and passage 2, which will be there'll be 2 text pieces, 2 passages in their test. And then we teach them to look and read every single response, okay? And choose the very best answer. They may be a statement, he traveled in many different countries, and one of the passages meant the other. And they may remember that, but you gotta remember the question saying both passages, okay? Prove to yourself. If you see it in passage 1, okay, is it in passage 2? Find it. So we tell them, go back into the text. Same thing with each one, okay?
And what I always do, cause I do a lot of review of the interims with the classes, I always say to them, what is that question asking you to do? Circle the key words in that question, okay? And I'll say, okay, raise your hand, what do you think are the key words? Both, circle the word both. Circle the word passage, the 1 and the 2, because you're going into both passages. Alright, and then we also teach the art of elimination, where we put an X behind the answer choices and a question mark behind the one that we think is correct. A lot of kids do it, some kids don't, but it's a really good strategy because it forces you to read all 4 of the choices. Because the kids say, oh, he traveled to many different countries. I remember reading that in the first passage.
That's it, bubble, you know.
But that was not in the second passage at all.
So you have to be real careful.
You have to be real careful.
Because the test, we'll do that intentionally, say, do they understand that question? Do they read that carefully? And that's the key. And when Mrs. Eccles mentioned about the art of elimination, she's saying at the end of the text, don't put the X over here, because if they put any markings near the bubble,
The computer.
when it's scanning, they're gonna think you chose that answer. So it's very careful, they bubble carefully and not make any stray marks. Because we're not allowed to go into the test and erase anything. We cannot touch the test.
So their test will actually it'll be paper like this.
It'll be
not a
paper.
scan
It's a
file.
booklet.
It's a booklet just like that, and they can go into it and they can mark up the text when they're reading the actual passage. They can mark it up and circle and highlight, they don't need to highlight it, but they can circle the words, underline words and so forth. They can, whatever strategy that would help them to understand and take in the important pieces in the text, they can do that.
Yeah, Miss Baker, second grade, she was for them too, she trained
Yes.
him with all.
Good, very good. Yes.
Yeah, she
And those are
always,
good.
you bring something, second grade to do something for me,
Absolutely,
and you have to.
perfect, great
Sometimes
strategy.
you have like 70, 80%,
Yes.
and not 100, but just like he trained him to do it.
Yeah, well, he's on his way then, he's got some good strategies underneath his belt, that's
Yeah,
great.
She do have some.
Very good, very good.
Very good.
So those are what they call multiple choice items that they'll have on the test. Okay, same with this one here, again, this one's saying which 2, you see it's in bold, sentences should be included in a summary of passage 1. Okay, so that means after they read not passage 2, but passage 1 again, and then like Ms. Eccles says, you wanna be able to underline keywords in that question, so it keeps you focused on what you need to answer.
So I
Okay?
always say, what words would you circle? Even though it's bolded, what word are you gonna circle? You're gonna circle 2, because in the classroom, there's at least 3 or 4 people who do not circle 2 answer choices. They only circle 1. And this type of question is probably worth more points wise, because you have a little more thinking that you have to do here. So it's real important that they have 2 circled, because if they only have 1, but if it's right, the whole thing's wrong.
You have two, like you have bonus.
Yeah, so they asked
Just
you
a
for 2.
bonus.
It's not a bonus,
That's just like
it's
a
you just have to
answer.
get it, it's all for 1 or none for nothing, you gotta get it all
So currently,
right.
yeah, the way the test format is, if they ask for 2, you gotta have 2 correct. If
Right,
you got 1 out of 2 correct,
it's wrong.
It's wrong, okay. Alright.
And this is part A and part B. Our students at Alafia are really great at answering the part A. And when it comes to the part B, to find the text evidence, we have a little bit of trouble because we have to go back into the text to find the text evidence. And here again, with part A's and part B's, you have to get both of them right
Right.
to get credit. So this one is probably worth more on the test too. I have no idea how they're weighted, but I'm just, because of the brain power that you have to use here, I'm sure it's worth a little bit more in the score, but it's very important. Our kids are good at finding the point, but finding the text evidence to support it, we have trouble, because they put in tricks. They put in a trick, because if you said, if you pick Jefferson enjoyed cooking, down here, there's one, which one was it? The greatest service which we.
Oh, I see, I know what you're saying, yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the correct answer is Jefferson kept trying when his plans failed, right? The supporting evidence for part B was he once also wrote that he failed 99
Right.
times out of 100, that one success was worth the 99 failures, okay? That sentence in the text supported this statement here in part A, okay, what the author was saying. And then what you were saying, what they trick you, Ms. Eccles, is correct, is like, for example, this right here. Jefferson thought everyone should have a garden. There was something that alluded to that I remembered in the passage, and I thought, that's right, okay? So let me see if there's supporting, and I see there is supporting evidence, because in the text, it did say, the greatest service which can be rendered in any country is to add a useful plant to its culture. That is right in the text. And I thought, oh, that is an answer, because that supports that statement, because he did say everyone should have a garden, okay? But that's not the best answer.
And that may have been in passage 2,
Mm-hmm.
which it probably was, but we're picking from passage 1. So
And
you
then
see
supporting.
how tricky they are?
Yes.
So the kids have to read very carefully.
Very carefully, yeah.
And really think, what is this question asking me to do? And I go like this to the kids, shut your eyes. What is this question asking me to do?
And they wanna make sure what it says in the text, because you have a lot of children who read a lot and have a lot of background information, so they're gonna quickly respond what they think because what they already know, and then just encourage them, you may know that, but what is it saying from the text? Because that's where they're gonna the correct answer is what the text says, not so much what your background, but what the text is telling you, okay? But yeah, this one was a tricky one, and I remember even with adults doing this, we were like, and they didn't give us the key. We were arguing back and forth, well, wait a minute, I think the author's saying this, no, you know, well, let's take a step back, and we still wasn't quite sure until we looked at the key where they thought that was the answer. I went, well, okay, you know, so they're tricky, they challenge you on some of these. But I think the key thing is, like I said, using those strategies, taking their time, really thinking about what are they asking, then they will do fine, definitely, okay. This is what they call selectable text, a different type of text item, okay? Well, here it says the title of passage 2 calls Jefferson a food pioneer, in quotations. Fill in the circles before, see that's bolded, the 2 sentences that support this description. Again, they bold before and the 2 sentences, okay? They're saying that supports this description. What description? Food pioneer, that Thomas Jefferson's a food pioneer. So now we have to read through that and see which 2 sentences support that, okay? And that's what they have to, again, read carefully, because you're gonna see, yes, there is mention about, that they compared at one point about the time then, their food was not available through supermarkets, they had to grow their foods, the vegetables, so they may say, well, I remember reading that. Well, of course, they pulled this from the text, intentionally, but they want you to make sure what is the question asking. Number 1, it's gotta be something that is supporting the description of food pioneer, right? And they want you to bubble before with the circles, not after. It can be confusing, so make sure they say before the circles. So if you feel this is a sentence, you circle before, bubble before. And then those 2 sentences that support. Again, if you only choose 1, wrong. You choose 3, wrong. Choose how many?
2 wrong ones.
Yeah, or if you choose 2 wrong ones, it's wrong. But in order to get, you have to have 2 correct sentences, 2 supporting, okay? So it doesn't make you think quite a bit. And that's why we say, take your time, don't rush through. So when it's an 80-minute test and someone's done in 20 minutes, I worry, okay? Can't say anything, we just tell them, take your time. We can't sit there and coach them on when the test starts. So they have to know, take their time. And we can't stop the test or collect the booklets during the test. We have to keep there in that session for those 80 minutes. Okay, so we tell them
have a book, they
throughout the
can
year, take your time.
If they finish early, encourage them to go back and reread, because they cannot pull out a book, they cannot pull out anything from the desk, they can't draw, they just got, their test is there and they need to focus on their test.
And we don't want that compromising other students, because for me as a test taker, if I'm taking, and I take longer on a test, if someone else is finished and I know they're getting up or they're, then I'm freaking out and I'm anxious and then I can't think. So we wanna respect all test takers. So if you're finished, you sit quietly. But we encourage them to take, you look at it, and you have a clock, we have a working clock. They know what time they started, and then they know the 10-minute reminder, so forth, that before 10 minutes, that they'll have a reminder, so to use that time wisely. You know? And they should have plenty of time to finish the test, okay? wanna talk about this one, the table match?
Yeah, this one's a little bit newer, where they will compare the first passage and the second passage and ask certain points, and then what is in both passages. So here again, the kids really have to go back into the text, find the answer, and then what was said in both passages. And these are a little bit more difficult, it takes a little bit more thinking, but our students are very well in this. When we took our interim, we had very high scores on the table match. So they were taking their time and going back into the text.
And that's one thing good about second, third, fourth, and fifth, we do what they call interims, and that's twice a year, once at the beginning of the year and once at mid-year. And Ms. Echols really great about looking at the data and see, and then actually breaking down the data, see what areas we need, either support in or celebrate what our strengths are. And then she meets with the teachers in the grade levels, let them know how we did, we share the data with the teachers, so they know what they need to work on, if there's something at the beginning of the year. But those interims mimic FSA expectations to get them to, so it's not like at FSA time, this is brand new. That those interims give them an idea of what's expected at the end of the year. And they have that twice, formally from the district that we provide, and then teachers do other teacher-made assignments. Okay. This is another one too, right, Mrs. Echols, on the editing?
This is editing, this is grammar, they're giving grammar questions also. So they read a passage, and in the passage, words are misspelled, and then there are like 5 or 6 questions, depending on the grade level, of editing. Like, this one is about the word but, how is the conjunction used in the sentence? So the children have to know that the word but can compare and contrast two things. They have to know if the punctuation is used correctly in the sentence, if you have commas in a series, the comma, and.
And that's what 21 is, right?
Right.
That's the common in the series. Look at the answer choices, how tricky that could be.
And they have to go back and look, and you can't see it because they put the test over, that question over it.
Right.
But, another grammar question could be, like a homophone, there, that type of thing. Capital, like Dallas, Texas, capitalization, which words need the proper nouns, that type of thing. So, and this year, a little bit, the test, I don't know if this will happen, but they've been saying, they might say, what is an adjective? So the kids need to know that an adjective is a word that describes a noun, that type of thing, but I don't know if that, they've been talking, that might be on the test at some of my meetings, but I don't know for sure if that will be there.
But grammar is one for definitely in conjunctions that they have to be familiar with.
Right.
All right, so then we talked about the reading. This is the writing portion of the FSA, which is, I know we have third grade here, but fourth and fifth does it. But third grade, they expose them to teacher-made type tasks, so they're prepared, so they're not shocked when it comes into fourth grade and fifth grade. The difference between third, fourth, and fifth is third grade is strictly reading is reading, okay? Well, when it comes to fourth and fifth grade, they're gonna have the reading test, but they also have the writing test. That writing test incorporates within that writing response, they have to read passages to be able to respond to the writing prompt. Okay?
And there's two kinds, there's informational essay and an opinion
Yes,
essay.
yes.
So those are the two types of writing. We have no idea what the prompt could be or the mode. Whatever they send out that day, it could be an informational piece the children have to write about or their opinion. So,
And again, we do the interims as well, which gives them the kids the type of test. So they do a 2-hour sessions, a 2-hour test, same type of setting where they respond just with how they're gonna do on FSA. And also, when you remember you get the ELA score, well, third grade will be the first year you'll get the ELA score. That ELA score is going to be a combination of, in fourth grade, their writing and their reading score for fourth and fifth. Third grade, when you get your score, it's strictly reading. Fourth and fifth, it transitions a little bit different, where they take the writing and the reading together, combined to make one score. If they're absent and miss the one, they won't get a score. So they have to be present for all sessions, yes.
and we have makeup sessions.
We do have makeup sessions, so it's not just that day, we'll offer that, it's usually that within that week, we have that, makeup session, yeah. Okay, this is what you might look like. You'll see the passages. Now, there's some that are 2 and some are 3 passages, I would think, so. You usually have a couple passages, and maybe the upper grades have 3 passages probably, okay? That's what they have to read to be able to address the prompt, and I'll show you what the prompt looks like in a second here. Alright, you see on the left, here's the actual writing prompt. They're gonna have something like, write an informative essay about the effects wild animals and humans have on each other when they live in the same area. Use information from the passage in your essay. Then it tells you, manage your time carefully so you can read the passages, plan your response. They'll give a planning sheet to plan. The teachers teach them how to plan appropriately, okay? Write your response and then leave time so they can go back and reread to see if it makes sense to revise or edit the response. Then it reminds them, please be sure to include an introduction, information from the passages as support, meaning they have to use the text evidence that they're reading. Those passages we saw in the previous slide, they have to use those passages to be able to respond to the question they're asking in the writing prompt. And then, and after that, it says conclusion. Provide the conclusion that is related to the information presented. Your response should be in the form of a multi-paragraph essay. Write your response in the space provided. So they'll give them, I'm trying to remember, those 3-line pages. That's it. And they have to, and they'll have a separate planning sheet that they do their planning. And that's not, and the planning is they do like bullets and things. And the teacher shows them what kind of format to use for planning. The actual essay is gonna be the ones with complete sentences. You're gonna have the introduction. The middles is where it's gonna have the meat of the information addressing the prompt, then you wrap up with your conclusion, okay? And so, usually it's 3-line pages, and they have to stay within the line, bordered line. You can't write outside the border of the line, it'll be framed, because it's really scanned as well, so it won't pick up those responses outside the line. So the teachers, we teach them that during the practice of the interim, stay within the line. Finish everything within those 3 pages. They can't add a page if they wanna write more.
No, they have to be very concise in what,
Concise,
in
yes.
what they're thinking.
Yes. Did I miss anything to add on the writing there? Okay. This is the important part that I was telling you about earlier about the FSA portal, okay? This is the website, which you have a copy of the PowerPoint there, and it has the address that you can Google. If you just Google FSA portal, this will pop up, okay? All right, and then it has different resources. This is the area you wanna choose, the student and families, okay? That part will go into, when you click it, you click the student family, when you click it, it'll have practice tests and answer keys, like I was saying. They have even a PowerPoint there for students that kinda is a little bit different than what we showed today, but there was, sample questions and just some tips for students to prepare themselves for the FSA. And that's just for students, so that's on the FSA portal as well that you can go on and review. And they can look at it, kinda gives them some idea what to expect and how to prepare themselves on there. And I think that, and there's other resources as well on there, but those are the main ones that I thought was very helpful for parents and teachers on there. These things, this is ways you can help, which by being here, we know this is preaching to the choir. You can read to your children, review and discuss their homework, just meaning routine you have throughout the year. Not to start now, you know, you've been doing this all year, and that's what helps building that procedure and routine. And then, you know, you have that communication with the teachers if there's concerns and so forth. Look through their backpacks, too, because they may have some important information in their backpacks. Some of the teachers want us to add some more information about math. They feel over the years, they've noticed that would help students be ready for FSA is improving on their math facts to be, you know, automatic and to master the math facts, whether it's the addition, subtraction, or multiplication, division. And ways you can help on that is take 5 to 10 minutes, like a drill. Don't overbear them spending, you know, hours on it. Take, you know, a routine of 5, 10 minutes here and there, practicing, you know, 5 times 7, what? 35, and just trying to challenge them. 5 times, you know, 5 times 40, 3 times 5, 15, okay, you just get them to know their facts automatically. And the reason why is because they may know how to solve a certain problem that's on FSA, a math problem, but if they don't know the basic math facts, they're not gonna reach the end result of a correct answer because they had a breakdown on the actual knowing the math facts. They may have to know what 3 times 5 was to get to the next step. If they have this first step incorrect, then the whole problem's gonna be wrong. So that's very important, they said it did. And just make it a game. This is what, we also have Ms. James, we asked, and she provided for us, and these next two pages here is what you have on your handouts, I think it's the
On the
green
green
one,
sheet.
the green. These are online free resources of reading and math, that they can access at home, okay? And, that way they can go on, there's some that are games, you know, they'll support reading and for mathematics, so, that's something you can peruse and see what could be helpful, just to, if they need some additional assistance, or just support, just to, help them with